Hey everyone, I want to make this quick video to capture some of the important information where or how to prime the engine for this tractor and where your camshaft must be positioned so it will align with the oil passage for the rocker arm assembly. So I did not move this tractor. I rotate engine crankshaft since I have primed it. So it came in my head to see where the flywheel is positioned, where the oil actually flow towards the rocker arm assembly. So when I checked it, the flywheel is actually located, I don't know if you can see, is 8 degree. So let me zoom in and see if that information we can see from here. So it's 8 degree advanced on the crankshaft. That's where the camshaft align or close to. The silver mark is 4 degree, just before 5, and the dot or the marker is aligned with the 8 degree. 5, 6, 7, I think is between it's on 7 from here I can see. So it means it's supposed to be 8 or 7, but right now everything works fine. So just to let you know, it's easier right now to align with the 8 degree advance. So your passage will camshaft will be aligned with the passage. That's all. Hi guys. Today I took one step back and I'm doing something right, which I think is right. There was a mistake, not originally by me, but I think I caught it, so I'm correcting it. The reason for this video is, if you notice, this threaded plug is right under the coil, right here next to the oil dipstick. Then this is a mounting for coil mounting bracket, the screw or the bolt. Then this one is or was another hole where I'm installing this L fitting, 90 degree fitting. The reason I'm doing it, what I noticed, first of all, since yesterday the oil pump is primed and I was able to circulate the oil everywhere in the engine by using the drill machine. Then I also figured out how to align the cam so pump can push the oil all the way up through the tube inside the rocker arm assembly compartment and feed the oil. So I was able to do that. What I was not able to see successfully was I didn't see any pressure in the oil gauge, which I was actually mounting right here. The reason I was mounting here is basically when I bought this tractor, whoever did any last work related to the gauge did not install to the right location, and the oil gauge port is not this one, because this is where I was connecting the oil gauge and trying to monitor the oil pressure. I didn't see anything, nothing, needle didn't move at all. I tested the gauge by using the bicycle pump and pressing air inside and needle moved, so gauge was working fine. the tube is working fine, I assume, but I'm going to test it again one more time. So I looked at it, my pictures I took before I start assembling the engine, and the gauge was mounted right under the coil. But when I had it, I felt like either this port is not for the oil gauge. It is good enough to see the cam and align the hole, so cam can let the oil pump feed the oil up there, but this is for inspection point, not for the gauge. Even the thread and hole is meant, or can be, this 90-degree fitting can be installed here, but it was not creating the pressure. Doesn't matter how differently I rotate the camshaft. So when I was looking for, I had some hint, or I was feeling that something is wrong, so I was looking at exact port where it's supposed to be mounted for 640 tractor, Ford 640, and googling and looking at some different videos of this same tractor, NAA 600 640, and what I found out, NAA or Jubilee or 600 series, they have in many videos this port for the oil gauge is right behind the oil pump, hydraulic pump, not here under the coil. And after confirming this, I decided to take off the hydraulic pump, and now I'm installing this L fitting, and the next step would be put back the oil gauge and do the drill machine spinning of the oil pump to see if gauge moves or not. If it moves, I'm good. I'm gonna put back hydraulic pump and continue to assemble the rest of the engine. So that's what was about it. So remember, in my previous video, actually, I told you guys that, hey, this is the port and blah blah blah, oil gauge will go. No, I was wrong, and still I'm going to test on this new location and make sure oil gauge works or not. If it doesn't work, then you will see another video. Bye. Hey guys, so what I did, I installed the original oil gauge. It was installed when I bought it, and what I thought, like, hey, I don't have fitting with the I have a brand new oil gauge, but its fitting doesn't fit in this 90-degree fitting for oil gauge. So what I thought, like, okay, let's use the old oil gauge tube and the gauge itself, but I wasn't sure, since as you can see it's very ugly, and I can barely see it because it has some rust or yellowish stuff inside. I don't know how I can clean it, but I want to make sure like it's working. So what I did, same old test, I took this gauge and tube itself, and I used my bicycle pump and I tested it, and it worked. So other than it's old, it's working. Behind it is completely rusty. Right now is in bad shape. So, but it's working. So what I just did, install it, and I'm gonna actually spin the oil pump and see if it moves. If it moves, like previous test with the bicycle air pump, then it's working, then I'll be good to go and I'll proceed. So I am going to make this video of this gauge. The pin should move from left to right. Okay. All right. Now I think you can go close and focus, and 1 2 3 go. above 40 and it's now coming back. So looks like I'm spinning too much, so it's creating the pressure more than 40 foot-pounds. So I think we are good. Our test is complete and it's successful. Hey everyone, as you see, my distributor is installed, and how I installed with the hex drive in it is very simple. It wasn't simple, but I figured out the way, surefire way, how to install with the hex drive first and the distributor, so it can sit right away instead of you have to wiggle and do a lot of other magic to make sure your hex drive sits in the space of the oil pump, and then you mount the distributor, and distributor bottom shaft align and goes on top of the hex drive. So I had this issue yesterday, but what I did is I figured out a way how to do that. I'm going to explain it in a bit, but what I'm trying to do right now is, since it's already installed, I'm just making sure my initial advance and the 4-degree mark on the flywheel is aligned. So what I did is, if you see, there's a 4-degree mark is aligned. This white line is basically, I use the marker and I put it 4-degree, and I want to make sure it's 4-degree. Yes, so 4-degree, and so this 4-degree will happen. So how I did this, align it, you can see my tractor has a way to crank the shaft, crank the engine using this bolt on the pulley, which I'm using a socket with this bar. So it's easy. I removed the spark plug, so it makes it easier for you to crank it by hand. So what I did is I set it up on this 4-degree mark, 4-degree advance for 640 tractor based on the manual it says, and then I made sure, so that 4-degree actually made sure, or 0-degree make sure the first cylinder is on top dead center, TDC, and it's in compressed mode, compression cycle. So air fuel mixture is compressed right now, and on 4-degree the spark should happen, so which is right before 0 degrees. So that's when spark will happen. Advance mean 4-degree advance mean earlier the spark, and when engine is rotating, making revolution, it gives enough time to burn the fuel. I think that's the theory, if I remember correctly. So, but this 4-degree happened twice. If you remember, the first cylinder, I'm going to zoom out, the first cylinder and the 4th cylinder both comes up and down together, middle two comes up and down together, but opposite of 1st and 4th. So many people have a question like which one is first and which one is 4. So based on a lot of reading and everything, this is the front of the tractor. So if I say this is the first cylinder, which is the front side of the cylinder, and the rear of the engine, which is the flywheel side, the 4th one is the 4th one. Benny says like it can be different. So how you want to make sure when you are aligning the 4-degree mark on the crankshaft, making sure the first one is on the top dead center in compression cycle. How you can confirm it, as you see, I removed the top cover of the rocker arm assembly. What happened is, if I go and try to rock this rocker arm, this is the exhaust valve for the first cylinder, and this is the intake valve for the first cylinder. So if I try to rock, you can hear the lash. You can hear the lash. What about this one? What about this one? Okay, so 4 degree on 4th degree, this first cylinder goes into two different cycle. It can be either compression or exhaust. So what I did is I have had my son to crank this handlebar, and while he was rotating clockwise like this from left to right clockwise, I was able to confirm that if this is the compression cycle, then the next cycle will be when the piston will come up all the way up top dead center. That cycle will be the end of the exhaust cycle, and this is the end of the compression cycle right now. So if I crank this engine counter clockwise, then the next thing should happen is after the 180 degree, what is happen is exhaust port should happen, because at the end of the compression the spark will happen, which is right now. The spark will happen and it will push down the piston down, and when it's going to come up, that time exhaust valve will open. So I just made sure, I'm not going to do it right now, but for you, if you want to really confirm first cylinder, if this is the first cylinder and is on the top dead center and is on the compression, that's where this distributor should point to the spark plug cable for the first cylinder should create a spark. Right now this is the position I have. So after this next cycle, the exhaust valve should open and it should push out all the burned fuel smoke. So that's how I made sure before setting up the distributor. So if you see right now, my distributor oiling port is facing towards me. I think this is the natural position by design it should be. I've seen other videos of these similar tractors, NAA 640, 600. Sometimes people have this oil port moving 45 degree or 90 degree inside. So if you think about where these clips, retaining clips should go, if I rotate a 45 degree more, this clip will go here, which will be very inaccessible, pain to open and close. Or if I move other way around, it's going to be, this one will be. So this is the best position, I think. And again, this system, distributor system, doesn't need to be on this position, because it can work. You can make it work in a different position. You can install it and still make it work. And sometime you will end up having the first cylinder this and fourth cylinder this. So based on this, but I think what I did is I looked at a couple of videos and I looked at the original pictures of my tractor when I bought it. It came distributor oiling port like this, forwarding this side sideways, not the towards the front of the engine or the back. So I align it and it makes sense because of the clip. Second thing, I checked other people's videos and pictures where first cable, a spark plug cable is attached. Sometimes they attach here, sometimes they attach here. You can do it all kind of thing, depends on the how you rotate the distributor. But at the end, I think I will follow or I will do it what I think is right. I do not have any document and manual to back it up, but I do have pictures which I know and observe on the internet. So based on that, I'm making this decision. And it's not guaranteed it's going to work, but this is how I'm going to set it up for first time firing up the engine and see if it works. And I'm making assumption this is my first cylinder, this is my fourth cylinder, the rear one, and that's how right now on 4th degree my rotor is pointing to the first cylinder. And how I can actually make sure is, this is the distributor cap, and on this distributor cap there should be a mark number 1. So this is number 1. Okay, if I'm going to bring it close, you can see. Hey, come on, sometime, like, yeah, this is number 1. So I'm going to put this number 1 like this. Okay, so if you see these notches on the side of this of the distributor cap, notches are on the side because this is how I installed. So this number 1 will not be this one for now. So again, if you want to align everything based on the label, and I don't think so, this is like made in USA or made in China, so I don't know who ever designed it, thought this, but I'm not going to worry about this number 1 mark. But I know if I put it like this clip and notch align, and my number 1 will be like this because rotor right now is pointing this way. Okay, after starting it, I can still go left and right. I can rotate the distributor and go left and right just to make sure it works fine. But the most important thing is the rotor, which is basically going to make a closed circuit for this coil. This is spark plug, should be the first number 1 because our crankshaft is on 4th degree for the first one. So these are like few things, steps I'm taking, making sure before I put the distributor, my crankshaft, flywheel marks, timing marks are on 4th degree advance. Then second thing I'm going to do is making sure my first cylinder is in compression, not in exhaust. Okay, so these 2 things you need to make sure. The third thing is then I will install the distributor with slide 10 degree this way, this side. So when I'm pushing down, because of the gear on the camshaft will push it in opposite direction, then it will align perfectly. So that's what I did. Then I want to make sure my distributor oil port is accessible. It's not other side of the distributor or close to the engine. So it should be accessible for your regular maintenance. Then I think it will be all set up. I do have a Pertronix 1244A negative ground ignition, electronic ignition. So that's what I'm going to install. This is the coil. I bought it along with that kit. This is also Pertronix coil. It doesn't say anything. I don't think there's a label, but they also sell it, and its part number is 28010. It's a 12 volt coil. It says it has a 3 ohm resistor. That's another question, I will talk about it. But anyway, so that's how you're going to set it up, your distributor, timings and everything before you start. Now, how I did install the hex drive, right now it's too late for me. I can remove the distributor. It's not really tied. These 2 retaining clips, holding down clips left and right, they are right now hand tight. I can lose it. I can remove the distributor as is, and I can show you, but I'm not going to do it. But how to install the hex drive? There are 2 ways you can do it. One is you can drop gently the hex drive first, in the opening, distributor opening, without installing the distributor separate, just the hex drive. And hex drive is like this. So when you drop it, it's like a 3 or 4 inch long. I think it's 3 and 4 inch long, something like that. You're going to drop it, make sure it sits. So to make sure it sits properly, I have this drive, hex drive, for my drill machine, which I use. The inside of this distributor hex drive fits nicely, and it has a magnet inside. So other pain is if you have magnet inside and you try to set it up, and when you set it up properly in the pump and you try to remove it, hex drive will come out because of this magnet. So that's not a good thing, but you can still drop it by hand and use some kind of a small screwdriver or something. What I did use I used this one. So it has enough length so it can touch the hex drive top part, and you can wiggle a little bit with this point, and it will drop inside the hex socket which is attached to the pump or pump. So it will sit. All you need to do it is make it a little bit lightly, put the oil on it. It will sit. Now what you're going to do is, all you need to do is put the distributor in the opening. Now the problem people face is in this setup, when you put the hex drive first and distributor later, is distributor doesn't sit on the hex drive, or distributor end part doesn't slide on top of the hex drive, because hex drive may be a little bit rotated this way and your distributor is this way, so it's not going to align. All this hex doesn't align properly. So what you need to do is take out the distributor back, leave the hex drive inside, and try to use this and rotate the pump left or right by hand or by drill machine, whatever. Just slide gently, randomly. So what I did yesterday, when I figured out it's not sitting because hex drive corners are not aligning with the distributor end corners, then I simply use this one and try to rotate it with a couple of like left, right, and randomly, so because you cannot see, and then try to install it, and it worked fine. Because sometimes hex drive doesn't, when you're priming it, it doesn't always align where you leave. So I think that's very easy. So at that time, one of the video on YouTube says crank this engine with this bar or socket. I do not recommend, because once you actually align your flywheel with 4-degree advance, you don't want to mess with it. All you need to do is just pump is very separate, machine or is driver is separate from other part of the engine, so you can still do it with this drill machine or hex drive or socket like this extension hex drive. So don't change the position of your crankshaft or the flywheel. So leave it as is, just try to rotate it and you will find. And do not panic. This is like 1 or 2 or 3 attempt, you will be able to do it. Do not worry about it. The only thing you need to worry about is when you sliding down the hex drive piece in the opening without a distributor, make sure you first take it all the way in the hole where the hex drive is supposed to go initially. If you don't do it and there is an opening right above where you can drop it inside the engine block, which is going to take it down all the way in the oil pan, then you have a big trouble. It did not happen to me, but I was very careful, because I can see it when I put the flashlight. I can see it's a big opening, but you have to be very sloppy when you are driving with higher angle. So it's not going to happen, but be careful. Other than that, I think I'm all set. I'm going to install the spark plug, which I already did, but today I want to make sure, go back again and make sure my engine is on the right position and all those things. So that's all, folks. I'll come back again with another video. Bye. I just installed the Pertronix electronic ignition in the distributor. I completed the wiring. Negative is the black, red is positive on the coil, and behind it, this white wire, it goes to the positive side of the battery, but instead of going this way or coming this way, it's long enough, and the way harness is made, it's basically previously installed like this, so it goes to from the front under the cooling or water pump, and from here it is actually, these two are together. So this red part ends on the alternator positive side, and white goes towards positive. So here red, one of them is red. I need to check. So the one red is goes all the way to the ammeter, and from ammeter to the junction, and from there you have actually switch. I removed the old switch, it was broken, so instead of this one I installed this one. So what you do is basically flip it, toggle it, and cover it. So that's what I'm going to do with this. So this is old wiring, and I want to keep it as is, as long as I can do. So there's a plan. Yeah, getting there. Hello everyone. I completed the wiring with the switch, ignition switch, 2 wires from the coil to the distributor electronic ignition. White wire goes to the junction. From junction it gets connected with the switch, ignition switch, which is a keyless switch, toggle switch, and from there it goes to the battery, or as well as the alternator. So alternator wire is red. So this is the diagram I'm following. Minus, hey, come on, I don't know why it's not focusing. Okay, now it's focused. So this is junction. From junction, this wire is for light switch, so I do not have none of that, so I simplified. So erase that from your drawing for now. What I did, I made it very simple, so I don't want to talk about lights at this moment. So no lights, so this wire is gone, and this from diagram. I don't have fuel gauge, so this is gone from this diagram. Also, so only thing remained is the distributor coil, one single wire from there to the junction. From junction there is a switch to ammeter to the battery. So for a starter, solenoid and push start circuit, you can keep it separate. You can erase that one also if you want to diagnose properly. So in here on this diagram, there are 3 different circuits for 3 different purposes. One is light, the top one I told you. So if you erase, only 2 will remain. One is to feed the coil, one is for the starter. And between the starter and coil, the only thing is common, or the alternator is the common. Alternator is very simple. It is actually parallel with the battery. Only difference is between alternator and the battery is the ammeter, and that's what it is. So from here, if you erase this starter, so starter is separate. So that's how I followed that's how I did. One thing yesterday, or in my last video, I was going to talk about is this coil, distributor coil, which came with the Pertronix electronic ignition, and this coil has a built-in 3 ohm resistor. That's what I was told, unless I'm wrong. So what I'm doing is, my tractor has a ballast resistor right here, but now it's not used anymore. There's no connection. It's there. It's a 6 ohm resistor, I believe. So I'm not using it. My Pertronix ignition is directly connected with there's no external resistor. Why I made this decision, I actually verified a couple of videos from different people for 640 tractor, and I didn't see a resistor used. So these are a couple of things. I'm making a guess. Hopefully it's not going to burn out everything, but that's what I'm doing. So the switch, ignition switch, is this one. Okay, the funny thing is my camera today is not self-focusing. I don't know. It's an iPhone. I'm making this video. So wiring is completed. All plugs are installed, torqued. So what you see here is I removed the hydraulic pump. The reason I remove it, one was to basically install this oil gauge tube. This, and I did not install after that the final one without. So the other reason, or the primary reason I remove it, because I found this opening, I believe, is for the oil gallery, and there was no plug. Like most of the places I have plugs, these two under the distributor, there is one more right here, but this one I didn't have any plug when I brought it back from machine shop. So I'm not sure why it was left. So what I did is my kids are doing some stuff outside the garage. So this plug is basically right behind the camshaft, I believe, and this is the gear which drives the hydraulic pump. So I was trying to install this plug, which is 1827, and this is not going all the way. If you see this, a lot of threads are out, and it's not a very long plug. So this is the same plug installed everywhere, and I have this let me focus so you guys can see. This is 18 NPT 27. This is my tool eye kit, and this one goes perfectly halfway, but the same plug I have the other where is it, this one, and the plug I'm using, I'm trying to install, and this 1827 NPT 27 takes this plug which I already installed, but somehow it's not going all the way in. So I'm going to plug it temporarily, and I'll check. Somehow I can find out this plug. First I will check with my machinist. What if he says, yeah, this is the right one, then I'll continue install. But somehow I don't want to screw up the threads, but it's open, and if I put the light inside this hole, I can see the camshaft lobe. So definitely this needs to be plugged. Other than that, I'm going to put it back. I'm going to finish the hydraulic pump again with the silicone, and this is it. So only thing is remaining is my battery and the radiator. Other than that, I think I finished everything. I secured almost everything. I will probably be able to crank it up first time and see what happened, but I will go again with my checklist to see, make sure. Yeah, of course, there is no fuel tank, so radiator and fuel tank needs to be installed now. Other than that, hydraulic pump, radiator and fuel tank, and I'm good. All wiring is completed. So again, this is the diagram I'm using, and I found this diagram from online, like I Google it, and it says 4-tractor 1-wire alternator. So that's the diagram I'm using. The one diagram came with my alternator. It's very confusing. I simplified it, and it is same as this one, except there is a resistor between coil and the power. And also my solenoid has orange wire, which is this one, and this one is talking about, so I left it orange wire as is. If you can see, it's here, orange wire. And the diagram I got, the wiring diagram I got from this alternator, which is 10SI, I believe, Delco. So it has the orange, it says like cut it out, but I'm gonna leave it. I don't know about this, but that's how I'm gonna start. That's all. Bye.